A box. That's all it was at first. A cardboard box sitting inside a storage unit. Unremarkable, forgotten looking. But when investigators opened it, they found something that made seasoned detectives go silent. Photographs. Hundreds of them. Faces. Dozens of faces. Strangers. Men, women, teenagers, children. And here's what made their blood run cold. Nobody knew who these people were. More importantly, nobody knew if they were still alive. Before we talk about the photographs, we need to talk about the man who took them. His name was Rodney Alcala, and if you passed him on the street, you would feel nothing. No warning, no instinct firing in the back of your mind. He was charming, educated, well-spoken, the kind of man people trusted immediately. Which is exactly why he was so dangerous. Alcala was eventually convicted of multiple murders, but investigators suspected the real number was far, far higher. And those photographs, they were the reason why. Because when law enforcement searched his belongings, they didn't find a handful of pictures. They found over 1,000 photographs, taken across years, across states, across decades. Think about that number for a second. These weren't vacation photos. They weren't family portraits. They were photographs of strangers. Some subjects smiled directly into the lens, relaxed, comfortable, trusting. Others looked slightly uneasy, stiff, like something felt wrong, but they couldn't name it. And some appeared to have no idea they were being photographed at all. When detectives laid them all out and began studying them, a horrifying pattern started to emerge. Alcala wasn't just a killer. He was a hunter who documented his hunting grounds. Every photograph represented an encounter, a moment of access, a moment where he had gotten close enough to someone to point a camera directly at their face. And nobody knows what happened to those people after the shutter clicked. Law enforcement faced a problem unlike almost any they'd encountered before. How do you investigate victims you can't even identify? How do you find missing people when you don't know their names? So they made a decision. They went public. Investigators released the photographs. News stations broadcast the faces. Websites uploaded them for the world to see. And then they waited. What happened next was something between a breakthrough and a nightmare. Thousands of people across the country stared at those photographs, looking for a daughter who disappeared in 1977, a son who stopped calling in 1982, a friend who vanished without explanation, a neighbor nobody had seen in years. And some of them found familiar faces staring back. Now here's what I want you to think about right now. Imagine you're scrolling through those photographs online and you see someone you recognize, someone you haven't seen in years, someone who told you they were just moving away. What do you do with that? Drop your theory in the comments. How would you react if you saw a face you knew? As responses came in from the public, investigators started getting answers. Some of them were relief. A woman recognized herself in one of the photographs taken when she was a teenager. She was alive. She was fine. She had met Alcala briefly, thought nothing of it, and walked away. Lucky. Others recognized siblings, childhood friends, former classmates, people who had crossed Alcala's path and somehow survived it. Each identification felt like a small victory. One less question mark, one less face without a name. But for every photograph that got explained, there were others that didn't. Faces that nobody claimed. People nobody reported missing. Names nobody could supply. And with each unidentified photograph, the question investigators couldn't escape grew louder. Were they victims nobody knew to look for? Here's what makes this case unlike almost any other in true crime history. In most murder investigations, you start with a body, or a missing person report, or a family desperately searching for answers. But what if nobody reported someone missing? What if a victim had no close family? What if they were drifting between cities, no fixed address? What if the people who knew them simply assumed they had moved on? Those people could disappear from the world entirely, and nobody would ever connect them to Alcala. Nobody would ever connect them to those photographs. Nobody would ever know. That's the part that keeps investigators awake at night, even now. Not what they discovered, but what they almost certainly didn't.
So here's the real question nobody can answer. Investigators believe most people in those photographs survived. But do you believe that? Because I'm not sure I do. Comment your craziest theory below. How many victims do you think were never found? Let's see how dark this comment section gets. A photograph captures a single fraction of a second, a frozen expression, a smile, a glance. What it cannot capture is what came before that moment, or what came after. And that's exactly why these photographs became so disturbing. Because every single image raised the same cascade of questions. Where was this taken? How did this person meet him? Did they sense something wrong? Did they walk away? Did they make it home? Years passed after Alcala's conviction. Documentaries were made. Internet communities formed specifically to study the photographs. People dedicated enormous amounts of time trying to identify faces. And slowly, piece by piece, answers trickled in. But the collection was never fully explained, and the unresolved photographs remain somewhere in evidence files, still waiting. Here's what I keep coming back to. Rodney Alcala is gone now. He died in prison in 2021. And with him, he took every answer he hadn't already given. Every name he never disclosed. Every story he chose to keep. Somewhere in those photographs, there may be people whose families spent decades wondering. People who were never reported missing because the world simply moved on without them. People whose stories are locked inside a photograph that nobody has identified yet. A photograph is supposed to preserve a memory, a moment, a life, a face. But sometimes it preserves a mystery instead. And some mysteries don't get solved. They just get older, quieter, until one day someone opens a box and the faces start staring back again. If you made it this far, you need to see what comes next, because the next story doesn't start with a serial killer. It doesn't start with a missing person. It starts with a single photograph that shocked an entire nation. A nurse, smiling, standing beside a deceased patient. And what investigators uncovered behind the walls of that hospital was far worse than anyone imagined. That story is next. Don't go anywhere, And before we get there, I want to take just a second to say something to everyone still here. If this story kept you watching, if it made you think, if it gave you that unsettling feeling that true crime does when it hits differently, then you already know what this channel is about. We don't do clickbait here. We don't rush the story. We let it breathe. Because these are real people and real events, and they deserve more than a 2-minute recap. If that's the kind of content you want more of, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are looking for exactly this. And if you haven't subscribed to True Horror Narrations yet, this is your sign. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a new story. We drop new cases regularly, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. Every like, every subscribe, every comment you leave telling me your theories and your reactions, it all keeps this channel alive, and it keeps these stories being told. So thank you, genuinely, for watching, for staying, for being part of True Horror Narrations. Now, are you ready for the photographs? Stay with me.